I'm Shadi Sharif, and this is Cyborg. He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He wants a situationship? One of my favorite topics to discuss with friends is dating. Like sharing war stories, we gather around, talk about the highs, the lows, what's wrong with the culture today, and whether or not it's going to all work out in the end. But when it comes to dating as first or second gen Americans, there's an added layer of uncertainty. Should we date someone in our culture or should we venture out? Research on this topic is currently inconclusive. On the one hand, many researchers conceptualize intermarriage as the ultimate form of assimilation because it connects families, arguably the most intimate relationships in our lives. But often, research shows abandonment of our ethnic culture and assimilation is linked with mental health difficulties. So while the jury is still out, in our bonus episode today, Stella and I are going to discuss our own personal experiences dating, what the current dating landscape is like, and whether we ultimately want to fully assimilate or to find someone in our own culture. So, Solar, I'd love to start by asking whether there are any differences in dating in Iran versus the US.
Oh, it is. Wait, it is. Well, I haven't been back for 5 years, and I'm sure things have changed. But the main thing, I feel like it comes down to commitment. Like, I don't know why, and I don't know how this happened. Well, actually, I have some ideas behind it, but people in our generation, I feel like they tend to not want to commit anymore. And a lot of it, I feel like it comes from social media and the expectations that are created through just seeing other people's relationships and setting that really high bar for them. And also dating apps. I would want to talk about dating apps. I feel like that has ruined the whole experience of dating and going out and meeting new people. Right now, people just don't really go out and talk to other people and get to know them. They're just like, okay, I'll just go on the app and find whoever I want, you know? I feel like what I mean, what I really like to do and try to do is just go out and meet new people and just do it in the right way, the way that it used to be 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I feel like dating apps has just changed the whole dynamic of dating and going out, and it has ruined it, I feel like, because you used to go out and okay, I found this person attractive. You go up to them and talk to them. But now with the dating apps, everyone has lost their confidence. They cannot go up to a girl or a guy and talk to them because they're used to just swiping left and right on the app and not actually talking in person. And now it has made it so hard to just talk with the opposite gender in person. Um, I would love to hear your experiences on this too, your thoughts.
Definitely. I think all these points you're talking about are connected to a deep change in societal norms. So, the first aspect is commitment and people's lack of wanting to commit. I've seen that definitely through my own experience and through my friends. And part of it, I think, comes from a good place because even 20 years ago, it was really unusual for a person to not want to get married and have children. And their families and communities wouldn't necessarily respond well. But what's nice now is there is a lower level of pressure to be married and have children. And I think this gives people a lot more freedom to explore exactly what they want and not feel forced to conform to this societal norm. But on the other side, I think our generation has almost gone to another extreme where so many people have fears of commitment or have a perception that there's always something better they could have or something that they're missing out on by being in a relationship. And the other aspect you brought up, which I think is so interesting, is the confidence of people. And it reminded me of this experience I had a little while ago where I had just gone to a bar with a group of friends and we were just hanging out, and I was looking around the room and I noticed that everyone was standing in their own group of friends in their little huddle. And no groups of people were talking to each other. And I realized how unusual it would be for one person to go up to another group of people and talk to them. And it goes back to these new cultural norms where we don't really talk to each other. We don't interact with each other, with strangers especially. And we're really stuck in our own echo chambers, in our own little silos, and we don't venture out of it. And so as a form of rebellion / retaliation, when we started going out to bars, I would wave at people that I didn't know. And a lot of times they would do a double take, and because it's an unusual thing to do, and they'd be like, is this girl waving at me? But it was just a fun thing to do and a way to kind of break this almost tension that I feel when we go out. And I was doing it as a way to kind of challenge this new cultural norm where we don't talk to strangers and we don't talk to people we don't know.
Yeah, it's just the power of, I guess, technology these days that has ruined the whole experience. And people are less extrovert because of that. They just tend to that was such a good point. When you go out, you just with your friends and you barely even just think of your own memories in your head and how many times that you went out with your friends. Let's say you went out with group of friends, you talked to a stranger. Just like having a normal conversation. It shouldn't be flirting, just a normal conversation. It barely has happened, even for me that I want to talk to other people. It's just everyone's into their own group and not really wanting to talk to other people. And that just, I don't know. I don't like that.
I totally hear where you're coming from. And I think it's a culmination of all these different things, from dating apps, like you mentioned, to social media, to also just COVID, where today something as natural as saying hello to someone feels totally bizarre and unusual.
I also want to touch base on just the actual dynamic of going out with someone, that how it has been different right now. It is different right now. So you go out with this person, right? And I've had experiences like that. I'm sure a lot of other people, I have my friends telling me the same thing, is that you go out with someone, but I understand if they don't know what they want, they're still figuring out their dating goals, and that is totally okay. But when it's just a lot of situationships are occurring right now, and that I absolutely hate it. People tend to drag a situationship for a couple months, and then when one partner wants to make it more serious, they get scared and they back up. It can be because of their past experiences and how now they're scared of relationship. I understand that. But at a lot of times, people don't really want that commitment. They do whatever they do in a relationship, but they just don't want to name it a relationship. And that is so bizarre to me. Mm-hmm. And it's very common right now, and I don't really understand why, but people just drag something for a really long time, and it's not even a relationship. You cannot even name them boyfriend and girlfriend, and I absolutely hate that.
Situationships. They are the new pandemic. I think I'm like you, Solar. I really value relationships, and for me personally, a situationship is not something I'm interested in or seeking. And at least from what I've seen, it's not necessarily something both people in a situationship want. What I've often found is one person wants to be in a relationship, but the other person doesn't. And instead of breaking things off, like you said, it turns into a situationship where things drag on for months. But even I know situationships that have gone on for years. And I think if that is the dynamic a person is in, it's really sad and unfair because one person is hanging on to someone who just isn't that into them. And the other person is dragging this person along and giving them the false hope that maybe one day it could turn into something more.
It's just, I think some people don't want to lose their other options. They open up their Hinge and they see they have 10 matches and they're like, okay, why do I make this a relationship? I'm just going to continue it like what it is right now. I do whatever I do in a relationship, right? And I still get to meet other people. This is a big part,
Yeah, exactly. There's almost this overarching sense of entitlement and selfishness when it comes to relationships in our generation. And it's become normal to use other people until we get what we want. And I wish that wasn't the case. But I'm not sure how to change it on a mass cultural scale. I'd love to talk a little bit about dating preferences, though, and whether you have a preference of dating Iranians versus Americans.
Oof, that's a hard question. um, to be 100% honest with you, I think I have dated both Persian and Persians, and I've had good and bad experiences with both. Definitely, each person is different from another one. You cannot say all Persians are good or bad or vice versa. But I think that culture doesn't matter where you're from, but your culture has a lot to say in a relationship. And that's, I'm sorry, but you cannot deny that. Having someone, your partner, being from your culture and your own language makes it so much easier. And it eliminates a lot of challenges that you will face with someone that is not from your culture. But if you love that person and you're willing to put in that energy and time, then you definitely have to do it. If you find someone you really like and you both like each other but you're from different cultures, then you obviously have to put in the time and effort to make up for the different cultures. And that is just basically trying to understand and learn your partner's culture and language as well. So these are the challenges you face, and if you're willing to take on it, then yeah, you definitely have to go for it. But for me, I think I would probably, because of all these challenges and just me liking Persian girls, I would go for Persian girls. But if there is someone from a different, culture and language, non-Persian, I would definitely, if they're the right person, why not? Yeah, I'm not close to it.
Of course. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and experiences on dating. My experience is potentially different than yours, only in the sense that I grew up in the US. So I'm kind of in the purgatory in between of being American and Iranian. But if I reflect on my own dating experiences and you would have asked me a few years ago what my preference is, I would have said definitely American. But over the last few years, I've become so much more connected to my Iranian culture. And today, I think it would be really special to date someone who's Iranian American like me. And the reason I think that is just because of simple things that are mutually understood when we're from the same culture. So whether it's how we talk to our families, or dancing together at parties, Or if we're just walking outside and we can switch to Farsi and share a secret with each other. Or just the foods that we eat. And I also like to think long term. Something I very much want is for my kids to learn Iranian culture. And of course, if my partner is not Iranian, I could teach them myself. But it's just a different dynamic and much more difficult to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
So I know you mentioned there are some differences. Does any specific ones come to mind when you think about dating an American?
Ooh, I have to think about that one. I'm sure there are a lot. So one thing that I can think of, but I didn't face, was that if you live with your parents, then this potentially becomes a problem if they're Persian or non-Persian, and how to introduce them to your family, and how if your partner can adapt to your culture and your family. Or not, and I guess that's one of the biggest challenges. Also, it's just like, it comes down to the simple things, the activities that you guys do together, if you have your partner from your culture or not.
Definitely. Such good points. Okay, so let's say if you could create your ideal dating world, what would it be?
Okay.
Everyone wants to get married. Everyone is serious.
Well, definitely something in person. Yeah. Let's just eliminate all social media and dating apps. You can only text, that person. You set up a date. You go on a date, right? You've definitely met before, so it's not the first time that you guys see each other, It is the first date, but it's not the first time you see each other. That is so different from going on a date, on a blind date, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely going on a date and talking to each other, and it doesn't need to be anything special. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. I don't care about going to a really fancy restaurant or doing a crazy activity on the first date. My only purpose is just to talk and talk and talk and getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. That's literally it. So a lot of it comes from simplicity, and comes down to commitment. I think the best thing that someone can do to you on the first date is to be honest with you and tell what they want and what their dating goals are, and then you are faced with options. Okay, do I want to continue with this person or not? Right? Don't make it confusing for your partner or the other person, and don't make it hard for them. And don't make them to like you and then you just cut everything off. Mm-hmm. I know that's what people usually do when they realize the other person likes them more than they like them. You tend to just not tell them and drag things out. So definitely honesty is an important thing. I want to hear your experiences too and your thoughts.
Okay, when it comes to dating apps, I struggle because I agree that it has fundamentally changed how we approach relationships and how we see relationships in general. But on the other hand, I think that it allows us to connect with people who we might not have ever met in the real world. And I like that it opens up those options. So for me, I think in an ideal dating world, it comes down more to a fundamental cultural change where people are more honest and upfront about what they want.
And people these days play this game of, even if they're interested, they act like they're not interested. And such a simple example is that with texting and communication, like if you get a text, you would wait 2 hours to respond and then the other person has to wait 2 hours to respond. Mm-hmm. I hate playing games like that, but this is how it is right now. Doesn't matter if you're interested in the person or not. You have to act like you're not interested. You have to pretend you're not interested, because if you act like you're interested, then you would scare them off and they would leave you. And that's making it so hard to actually understand if they like you or not, you know?
Definitely.
It just has become a really tiring game, honestly.
I agree. And here's my thing with game playing, which I so relate to, and so many of my friends do too, thinking, oh, he responded 3 hours late, so let me wait 6. But I always say playing the game is going to attract game players. And something I'm constantly trying to challenge myself to do is if I like someone, show them. Because if that scares them away, then that's not the person for me. Either that person isn't looking for something serious or they just might not be that into me. And that's okay. But I do just want to emphasize for anyone who's listening, if you like someone, I would say show it. Would you agree?
Exactly, yeah. Because at that point, honestly, at the end of the day, you wouldn't regret it, right? Because you said what was in your head. And if they're scared and they're out of it, then good for you. They were not the right person for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for my last words, I heard this advice on Instagram a couple of days ago, and I think this is a great thing to end this podcast with. I would ask you, Shadi, if I offer you 10 million, and it's nothing related to the podcast, but I just think it's a really good advice. Okay. If I offer you $10 million right now, would you take it?
Is there a catch?
There is a catch. The catch is you wouldn't wake up tomorrow morning. Would you still take it?
No.
Exactly. So tomorrow morning and every day when you wake up, just tell yourself, I'm worth $10 million and start your day based on that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sada, for coming on and sharing your opinions and experiences with me. I'm truly honored.
Thank you so much for having me.
Intro music was written by Optin Akrami. And if you're interested in the research I referenced, you can find a complete list on our website at cyborg.info.